1977. My wife and I were baptized in California, Ridgecrest, California. In 1989, we began to study the reform lines. In 1996, the message of Daniel 11:40-45 was published. The message of this history was formalized. It had been recognized back in 1992. The reform lines were recognized in 1989. And then, on September 11th, 2001, the message was empowered. This history right here, we're now understanding that this is a history that marks the prophet that comes and warns Eli before Samuel is raised up. This represents the writer with the inkhorn in his hand. That represents Moses, Elijah, John the Baptist, and William Miller. And if you reject God's appointed means for communicating with mankind, you're cutting your throat. The last sentence. Those who despise and reject the faithful servant of God show contempt, not merely for man, but for the master who sent him. Amen. It is God's words, his reproofs and counsels that are set at naught, and it is his authority that is rejected. Okay, they weren't rejecting Samuel. They were rejecting God. They weren't rejecting Moses. They were rejecting God. They were rejecting the chosen representative of their specific reform line. It was Christ that spoke through Melchisedec, the priest of the Most High God. Melchisedec was not Christ, but he was the voice of God in the world, the representative of the Father. You can show that John the Baptist, Sister White directly says it, he was the voice of one crying in the wilderness. He was the voice of God. Melchizedek was the voice of God. Melchizedek is being represented right here. Somebody is to come in the spirit and power of Elijah. And when he appears, men may say, "You are too earnest. You do not interpret the scriptures in the proper way. Let me tell you how to teach your message." For Moses truly said unto the fathers, "A prophet shall the Lord your God raise up unto you of your brethren like unto me. Him shall ye hear in all things whatsoever he shall say unto you. And it shall come to pass that every soul which will not hear that prophet shall be destroyed from among the people." Now, we're understanding here that this prophet here in the story of Samuel is also the angel with the writer's inkhorn. that goes through Jerusalem and puts a mark upon those that are sealed? And how many angels work with him? 5. And what are they? They're the destroying angels. Okay. Every one that will not hear this prophet is going to get destroyed down here, or down here, depending on what level. If you're not aware of it, brothers and sisters, this work here that takes place before 9/11, right here, this is, we've established it. You may not have been here when it was established. It's the message that is the inkhorn in the man that's wearing the linen that puts the seal upon their forehead. Okay, in Ezekiel 9. The man in linen with the writer's inkhorn, it's the message. Okay? It goes through this history, and this is the sealing time, so it's got to go through this history. It's here, and brothers and sisters, whether you like it or not, from the very beginning of this message has only been portrayed with an inkhorn. From the very beginning, this is the inkhorn that portrays the message. Right? And in here, it's line upon line, the reform movements. And every reform movement, no truth is more clearly taught in the reform movement than God chooses the men that he uses in these movements. And to reject these men is to reject Moses or Samuel. It's the same story. All over again. It says, for Moses truly said unto your father, a prophet shall the Lord your God raise up. When the prophet comes in, he's raised up. Don't forget the word raise, because in the binding off period, there's a raising that takes place. Unto you of your brethren like unto me, him shall ye hear in all things whatsoever he shall say unto you. And it shall come to pass that every soul which will not hear that prophet, and what I'm saying, brothers and sisters, that prophet is the angel in linen with the writer's inkhorn. He gets raised up. He gets raised up right here. He's going to go through this history and put a mark upon those that are sighing and crying for the things that are going on in Adventism. But if that message is not received, in Ezekiel 9, what happens? The 5 wise priests from this history are going to destroy him. Okay? So notice verse 23, and it shall come to pass that every soul which will not hear that prophet shall be destroyed from among the people by those 5 destroying angels. All the prophets are speaking about the end of the world, and the Lord raised up Moses in that history, and Moses typified Christ. But in the book of Acts, it's saying that there is going to be a prophet raised up at the end of the world that has been typified by both Christ and Moses. And if you reject that message, the 5 wise priests are going to destroy you. Are you following my logic? The Bible teach that there is going to be a purified priesthood raised up. So Moses represents God and the law. He represents the authority. Okay? You have to see this. You have to see this because in this history here, this history from here to here is the history of Revelation 11, talking about 2 witnesses that are going to give their testimony here in our history. And one of those witnesses is Elijah the prophet, and the other one is Moses. Okay? And if you don't understand that from 9/11 to the Sunday law that Moses and Elijah are testing this people, then you can't understand things like right here, the rebellion that goes on here when those brethren left the path. It's the rebellion of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram. They're rebelling against Moses. They're rebelling against the ordained authority that the Lord placed into this history. And it's a rebellion against Moses because Moses is active in this history. Moses is God. He's the law. He's a symbol of God's authority that's placed into these movements. I want you to see that. And if you reject God's appointed means for communicating with mankind, you're cutting your throat. You're cutting your throat. You're cutting your throat.